You know, in the good old days, all it would take to get a black man lynched, whether he was guilty or not, was for a white woman to point at him and tearfully mention the word rape. Evidence? Why do you need evidence? She accused him, didn't she? The accusation is the evidence. Thankfully, we now no longer have such extrajudicial justice. Well, actually, not entirely. There's still one group of people who can still get lynched simply by being accused. College students. Now, stereotypes exist for a reason, and for certain you would struggle to find a more sexually charged group on the planet than college students. But that doesn't mean that they waive their rights to a fair trial, or the right to face their accusers. You know, this is kind of the reason why justice is blind. However, many feminists disagree with this principle. I mean, you may well remember the rush to injustice of the Duke lacrosse trial. Not only did feminist Amanda Marcotte, yes, that's her playing games on the bed with Rebecca Watson, birds of a feather indeed. No, not only did she presume the accused were rapists, but anyone who actually thought that they should be given a fair trial were rape-loving scum. Yeah, Amanda, why bother with the trial when the accusation is the evidence? District Attorney Mike Nafong, the case and the subsequent trial painted the Duke lacrosse team as a privileged group of young white men who never faced hardship and felt entitled not only to their luxurious lifestyles but also to the bodies of women. Yeah, let's lynch them now. We've heard all we need to hear. And if that pushes anyone's buttons, let me just remind you that someone getting unjustly lynched is someone being unjustly lynched. And it really doesn't make any difference if it's a poor black man being lynched or white college students. Injustice based on prejudice is just the battle cry of the lynch mob. And it makes no difference if that lynch mob is constituted by racists or feminists.
Had been a march in front of the captain's house in which protesters had carried large signs urging the castration of the lacrosse captains.
Yeah, that's a good, honest protest there, holding up signs to castrate the Duke lacrosse team or telling them that it's time to confess.
Wake up! Wake up! The sun is up! Sunday morning! Time to confess!
Time to come together, time to demand the truth.
We want the members of the Duke lacrosse team to come clean.
They haven't been convicted, but 30-something kids are remaining silent.
Showed up for yesterday's game and found out it was forfeited along with Tuesday's match. They were also greeted by protesters carrying signs that say, "Don't be a fan of rapists."
We're a group that called itself the Pot Bangers because they banged pots and pans, carried a huge banner that said castrate. And then a Take Back the Night march on March 29th, where feminist activists spread around the campus huge wanted posters with the lacrosse players' photographs on them.
And you'll be happy to know that there was a bunch of college professors who supported these protests. But what sort of college professor would support such actions?
Who were these faculty, this group of 88? This was not a random cross-sampling of the Duke campus. 80% of the professors in the African American Studies Department, 72.3% of the professors in the Women's Studies program, 60% of the professors in the Cultural Anthropology program. Large numbers of history, English, and literature professors signed the statement, and only 3 math or science professors.
Last spring, 88 Duke professors signed an ad that said in part, quote, "This is a social disaster. No one is really talking about how to keep the young woman herself central to this conversation. What is apparent every day now is the anger and fear of many students who know themselves to be objects of racism and sexism." So we called most of the professors who signed that ad, wanting to talk to them about it. No one would step up. So Factor producer Jesse Waters went to them.
And I was hoping that you would interpret my lack of a response as, no, I'm not interested in an on-camera interview. Thank you.
Now that the case is kind of falling apart,
sir,
do you still think that you were totally right in signing that statement?
I'm not interested in being interviewed on camera.
Well, thank you, Professor Plesser, a man of courage. None of the 88 teachers who signed the original ad will apologize or even explain themselves, not one.
Well, it turns out the district attorney was later disbarred for withholding sort of critical information. Seems that he withheld the evidence that although the DNA of 5 men was found on the victim, none of it actually matched the accused or any of the 40 or so of the Duke lacrosse team.
The DNA collected from the rape kit did not match any of the lacrosse players.
Feminist activists spread around the campus huge wanted posters with the lacrosse players' photographs on them.
The victim, who feminists would have us just listen and believe, had rather inconsistent story, with a range of men between 3 and 20, or maybe none at all, raping her.
But at various points in the case, she claimed that 0, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 20 people raped her.
Yeah, you know those hard to remember small details. Or the fact that the stripper who was there with her claimed that no rape occurred.
But perhaps most devastating was this woman, the dancer who had performed alongside the accuser that night at the Duke party. She said if there was a rape, she did not see it.
I never saw a rape occur.
But while all these inconsistencies were coming out, we could rely on stalwart feminists like Amanda Marcotte to defend the idea of innocent until proven guilty. Right? Yeah, right. In the meanwhile, I've been sort of casually listening to CNN blaring through the waiting area, and good fucking God, is that channel pure evil? For a while, I had to listen to how these poor dear lacrosse players at Duke have been persecuted just because they held someone down and fucked her against her will. Not rape, of course, because the charges have been thrown out. Can't a few white boys sexually assault a black woman anymore without people getting all wound up about it? So unfair. Yeah, Amanda, why bother with the tiny facts like this?
Defendant Reed Seligman is seen here taking money out of an ATM at the same time he was supposed to be raping the accuser.
Yes, Amanda, what's wrong? Can't a privileged white feminist falsely accuse a load of young men of rape anymore? Remember, this is a feminist accusation. Evidence? You don't need to lower your mind to considering evidence. No, that's for the rape-loving scum. I mean, obviously they're guilty, right? There wouldn't be much point in lynching innocent people now, would there? Or we have other feminists, like Anita Sarkeesian with all this listen and believe bullshit.
So I leave you with one simple thought. One of the most radical things you can do is to actually believe women when they tell you about their experiences. Thank you.
No, screw your listen and believe. I'm going to listen to the evidence and be skeptical as appropriate. And rather oddly for our justice system, which usually finds out whether people are guilty or not guilty, they made the extraordinary statement of stating that these Duke lacrosse players were innocent.
Based on the significant inconsistencies between the evidence and the various accounts given by the accusing witness, we believe these 3 individuals are innocent.
And the person who made the rape accusations later stabbed her boyfriend to death and is now serving 20-odd years in prison. Sure, but that was a one-off case, right? I mean, let's ignore the woman who was charged with writing her own rape threats.
One of the most radical things you can do is to actually believe women when they tell you about their experiences.
And then from that, organising a campus-wide campaign against misogyny for the hate mail that she'd been found guilty of writing herself. Now, let's move straight on to the Rolling Stones case. And here, again, we have trial by accusation. Headlines: rape culture on campus. A gang rape of 7 people violently raping a poor woman. An immediate move to ban frat events.
And while she was there, she was lured upstairs into a bedroom where she was gang raped by 7 men, while 2 other men, including her date, watched and gave encouragement. She told me that she eventually took this report to the administration, and the administration did nothing.
Let me stop you there.
Yes.
Why did she say the UVA administration did nothing when she went there and told them that she had been lured upstairs in a on-campus fraternity and gang raped by 7 men?
A major American university tonight has a lot to answer for now that claims of a particularly shocking sexual assault have been made public.
For anybody that has been around a fraternity, or they're suspending them through January the 9th.
Extraordinary move on one of America's most prestigious campuses, the University of Virginia, shutting down all fraternities as it investigates sexual assault claims.
I mean, talk about that. This isn't even a slap on the wrist. They need to suspend them for a year.
We move now to the crisis on campus. This after a very disturbing sexual assault allegation at one of America's most prominent colleges.
Shocking allegations of sexual assault on campus. They were exposed in a Rolling Stone article and have led the university to suspend all fraternity and sorority activity.
Now, this should probably start sounding rather familiar at this point, because at this point is when the story starts to fall apart.
2 weeks ago, a Rolling Stone article with this headline got worldwide attention: a rape on campus.
Rolling Stone magazine did a terrible job covering an alleged gang rape out of University of Virginia. Now, they trusted one source for the entire story.
In its expanded apology of its shoddy reporting said, oh, well, you know, this alleged victim, Jackie, she spoke about her assault. Her friends believed it. The rape activists on campus believed it. She spoke at the rape activist, seminars. So what? That doesn't mean anything. That proves nothing.
She had alleged that she went to a fraternity party with someone she was dating at the time.
Well, I met a young woman named Jackie. She's a junior now. And she told me that when she was a freshman, she was invited on a date to a fraternity house where there was a party.
The fraternity today released a statement saying that, in fact, they had not hosted any parties that entire weekend.
And while she was there, she was lured upstairs into a bedroom where she was gang raped by 7 men.
Phi Kappa Psi was accused of throwing an event where this gang rape happened. It turns out that on the night that she alleged that the event happened, there was no fraternity-sponsored event.
Because things didn't line up, it appeared that the person involved was, in fact, never a member of Phi Kappa Psi, and other details about his background didn't match other previously released information that she had given.
Facts were wrong. The date of the accused of the alleged rape, which is almost a capital crime, used to be one, is wrong. The fact that these two people worked together is wrong. The fact that a person who was accused of this felony act didn't work at the place they said he did.
According to the Post, a student who came to Jackie's aid that night now says she did not appear physically injured, as told by Rolling Stone.
Well, today, Rolling Stone magazine backed off the story. In a letter to readers, the managing editor wrote, quote, there now appear to be discrepancies in Jackie's account, and we have come to the conclusion that our trust in her was misplaced, close quote.
But I do think that we are on the cusp of some kind of cultural change, and the reason for saying that is just the idea that we are listening to these rape victims for the very first time. I mean, that is a huge shift.
You know, as somebody who was reporting early on about the problems in the Duke rape case, that fake rape case, there was no rape, I was a very young reporter at the time, and I remember being very jarred by people calling me a racist, people saying I must like rape.
So Thunderfoot is pretty much a rape apologist.
Now, here's where I'm just going to go all out for it. Thunderfoot's racist. I'm sick of this shit.
Calling me a racist, people saying I must like rape, you know, I'm not on the right side, and they try to brush you off if you raise doubts about an accuser's story.
Mr. Dana said he now feels that the magazine made a mistake in agreeing to Jackie's request that it not seek to corroborate her story about the rape on September 28th, 2012. So that's a disaster. Why would you agree to that?
For the source's protection, for the story's protection, explain to them if they're trying to limit what you're doing as a reporter that you just can't. If someone like that had suggested to me that you can't contact the people that I've accused of this, I would have said from the start, it's a non-starter, and here's why.
People know who are in the fraternity. You didn't give them a chance to respond, and you accused them of gang rape.
I mean, that's...
Of course you had to ask them if they did it. Of course, I mean, that's crazy.
That's journalism 101.
You know, your story won't be believed if we don't have the other side. Once it comes out, the people who are identified will say, gee, nobody asked us what we thought, and stuff may surface later that we didn't include in the story that we should have included.
Rolling Stone magazine is now expanding its apology for questionable reporting in connection with an alleged gang rape at the University of Virginia. It now admits that the alleged victim, Jackie, is, quote, unsure about certain details she originally offered that wound up in print.
We are finally beginning to talk about rape and give credibility to rape victims and be willing to listen to them for the first time.
And of course, you've got Marcotte and other feminists using this case as an example of how much American society hates women.
Before I say anything else, I have to thank you, Sabrina, for writing this. I think you've done a tremendous act of public service, and I'm genuinely very, very grateful.
Thank you.
It is hard to read an article like this and avoid the conclusion that we live in a culture that hates women, just hates us. It's hard to read an article like this and conclude that the men in this culture, boys and men in this culture, are raised to see women as not just less than them, but in some cases as less than human.
And in almost a surreal act, you get these feminists saying, well, yeah, but even if the rape accusations turn out to be completely false, we shouldn't make a big deal of this.
But this whole, well, the facts don't really matter because we know this happens all the time. I'm sorry, that is complete garbage. And when I read that, it makes me mad.
Because it might discourage women who actually get raped from coming forwards. Because, of course, nothing says let's take rape victims more seriously than a bunch of feminists lynching a load of people who have been falsely accused of rape.
Tragedies of this Rolling Stone fiasco is that I think it undermines the claims of women who actually have been raped or sexually assaulted.
Obviously, when instances where sexual assault allegations don't hold up to the facts, that in part discredits other people who want to come forward.
Because now people, every time there's a rape charge, people are like, oh yeah, remember that story out of UVA? Yeah, it's always BS, right? Oh, remember the lacrosse players out of Duke? They were innocent. No, they're always making up charges.
I know, it really is a disservice to the real rape survivors out there who are looking for justice.
But it's more than that. Not only do you undermine the credibility of real rape victims, you show how willing you are to lynch innocent people without even the most superficial fact-checking. And this good, honest feminist Zelina Maxwell at the Washington Post wrote, no matter what Jackie said, we should automatically believe rape victims, because incredulity hurts victims more than it hurts wrongly accused perps. Yeah, because we've all seen how fair the justice that comes from automatically believing victims is. I mean, really, is that how you think the legal justice system works? Shoot them all and let God sort them out. And frankly, I would have expected you, of all the people, to have a little more empathy here. I mean, it really does seem like someone's got a bloody short memory when you have a black person advocating for a presumption of guilt based on prejudice. No, not a bit of it. You baselessly accuse someone of the most egregious crimes.
You didn't give them a chance to respond, and you accused them of gang rape.
And then all you feminists bandy around with your burning crosses looking for a good rope and a hanging tree.
Say no more!
Oh, but it turns out the guys were completely innocent. The take-home message is loud and clear.
Students and faculty voiced their anger in protest this weekend.
And it's not that there's a rape culture on campus. It's that feminists want there to be a rape culture on campus so badly that they will believe anyone who tells them what they want to hear.
On the University of Virginia's campus, a silent show of outrage, with students sticking dozens of notes on the admissions office doors. Messages like, expel rapists.
They were also greeted by protesters carrying signs that say, don't be a fan of rapists.
Because let's be real. If there really was this big rape culture on campus that's such a big problem, surely you can find better evidence for it than this.
Wake up! Wake up! The sun is up! Sunday morning!
Well, the college rape epidemic meme went viral at the same time that rates of violent crime, including rape, were falling dramatically.
I mean, Rolling Stone, they sent a reporter to Harvard, to Yale, to other elite universities trying to find a rape story. She set out to find somebody who would talk about rape as a problem on the college campus.
Seriously, they just want the rape culture on campus so badly.
This is an intolerable act that needs to stop now. I'm really, really, really furious at the culture of rape.
They don't care if the evidence shows that they're innocent.
The DNA collected from the rape kit did not match any of the lacrosse players.
They want a rape culture so badly that they will always listen and believe, even when those rape-loving scum have shown that there was no frat party on the day she claimed she was gang-raped at a frat party. You know, minor details. They want a rape culture so badly that they don't need a rape-loving fair trial.
Before I say anything else, I have to thank you, Sabrina, for writing this. I think you've done a tremendous act of public service, and I'm genuinely very, very grateful.
Thank you.
It is hard to read an article like this and avoid the conclusion that we live in a culture that hates women. Just hates us.
As students prepare to head home for Thanksgiving, many are demanding their school's culture change.
Clearly something is not working, something is not right. People are getting hurt over and over again, and that has to stop.
Phi Kappa Psi, whose house was the target of vandals after the article's publication.
It's hard to read an article like this and conclude that the men in this culture, boys and men in this culture, are raised to see women as not just less than them, but in some cases as less than human.
Let's just call this like it is. These feminists are a lynch mob, plain and simple. And there is no one who undermines the credibility of real rape victims more than a lynch mob of feminists who will happily try to lynch the innocent over the claims of a woman who is now serving 20-odd years in jail for murder.
You wrote this for the WashingtonPost.com. Yeah. We should believe as a matter of default what an accuser says. Ultimately, the cost of wrongly disbelieving a survivor far outweigh the cost of calling someone a rapist. Even if Jackie fabricated her account, UVA should have taken her word for it during the period while they endeavored to prove or disprove the accusation. This is not a legal argument. This is a moral one.
Right. I think that...
Now, let me finish that quote for you. It's a moral one about what happens outside of our legal system. I mean, damn, have a little self-consciousness about American history. The moral argument for what happens outside of our legal system is little more than a call for extrajudicial justice. You know, a lynching. And a call for a lynching is a call for a lynching. And it really makes no difference, not one jot or tittle, if that call for a lynching is coming out of the lips of white supremacists or black feminists.